Hold on. I'm recording. They out there listening to Mariah Carey.
Oh, is it her time to shine now?
You know she defrosts December 1st. All I heard was the beginning of All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Man.
All right, so do you have any jams of the week this week?
Did I have any? Oh, son of a bitch, get me a drink.
What is... Okay.
Let me show you.
That's the name of the song?
It's called S.O.B., which, yeah. Very fun, very fun. What about you? What you been enjoying?
Well, the song that I've been jamming to is because I keep seeing the videos on Instagram, like people's little TikToks. It's that song Space Girl by Francis Forever.
I have not heard that song. Nah. I'm just gonna say, TikTok has some bangers on there because I be hearing some of these songs and I'm like, you know what? This is
Save that. Yeah. Like, I gotta save that one.
I feel like a lot of people have been giving a lot of hate to that song. What is it? Disney or whatever. I like that song. I feel it. I'm like, Disney, you are the deceiver. Like, y'all had us here with all these fake little dreams and shit like that. I wish upon 4 stars, and none of that shit has came true. So
like every star that crossed me, I wished on it, and nothing happened.
Nothing. I went out of my way in search for these stars. Like, they were beautiful, but none of them came true. On top of that, where's my prince? This whole time, I thought I was just gonna magically meet a prince out in the world. But, like, the only prince I keep finding is, like, the prince from, like, Ghana who's trying to call me for some money to send to his people. Like,
the Ghana prince.
I am so upset. Like, but a lot of people are hating that song. And I'm like, you guys know what? Shut up. Y'all just trying to find some shit. But, like, for real, I feel that whole song, I'm all like, yes, girl. Let them know. Let them know.
But the thing is, what I've realized, the older we get, the, like, more eccentric Disney people are. Because even now, like, with us living in California, no theme park has opened. Since they closed back at, like, the end of March, nothing. No guidelines, no nothing. California's like, shut everything down. We have not had a theme park reopen.
Yeah.
And those Disney people are livid.
Oh, so
They're
mad.
like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Give them guidelines. Disney asked for guidelines. They said, open them suckers back up. Florida gets to go to Disneyland. Why can't we? And it's like, calm down. Because it's like, Disneyland be so full of people. And I'm like, even at a lower capacity, it's still going to be too many people.
Yeah. And, you know, like, when you get excited about something, you're not out there trying to make sure you're following all the rules. You're just excited. You just go. You just do. You know what I mean? And it's like, people may think all they want, like, oh, I'm going to follow the guidelines. But you know what? When you see that Disney princess or fucking Mushu walking down there, you better run over there and move and, like, fucking push all these children out the way and shit like that. Now you're touching people.
Man, I'm not even a Disney. I'm not, like, I love Disney movies and stuff, but I'm not one of those Disney people, but I would push a child out the way for Mushu.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, now we're touching children. Now
in
we're
the face.
Yeah.
Mush their face away.
Exactly. Like, now we're over here, you know, having fisticuff battles with all these grown people trying to see who's gonna be there, because you can only be 6 feet from them, and I'm gonna be the one, not you. So, like, now there's a lot of, like, interaction. There's spitting going on. There's fucking people
if somebody
flying.
Spits on me, we are going to jail. And I already told y'all I ain't gonna make it in jail.
We gonna have to figure something out.
That's a whole problem.
But yeah.
But yeah, so. Disney people are eccentric, and I feel like this song is for them.
I don't know. I feel like it just brings all the fucking sad Disney people out of the, you know, woodworks. Like, oh, that's for me.
They salty.
Yeah. That
like, I want to go to Universal Studios, but you don't see me crying about it. I looked at my pass the other day and it expired. But, you know, they're gonna have to reissue all of us passes because I hadn't even had mine that long before everything shut down. But yeah, we just have to wait. We just have to wait until everything's safe. Because I'm a season pass holder for Universal Studios. Mm-hmm. Even there, it'd be a lot of people. Because, amusement parks are tourist traps. People be like, I got to check out the amusement parks that they have there. And, like, in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter section, it'd be full of people.
So full. And we got them Slytherin people there. They be assholes. They don't care.
The what people?
I said the Slytherin people. My people.
They're assholes in every... I was trying to explain that to one of my friends the other day, because I'm like, there are significant people in every house at Hogwarts, and there are assholes in every house. Yeah. Like, he's someone who believes that he's a Slytherin, and then he was upset that he got Gryffindor as his house. And I was like, okay, that's cool. We don't want you over here anyway.
Whatever.
You're the most, like, Slytherin Hufflepuff person I've ever met. Like, you're somewhere in the middle of both of those houses. But I feel like everybody has probably 2 houses that they could be in.
Yeah. No, yeah. Hey guys, welcome to Item 9 Podcast. This is Hyra.
And Kim.
Back with you guys on another Friday. I hope you guys are having a great day. Yeah.
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk. You can exit from the left, right. There are snacks.
Thank you. And y'all can catch us back next week. So, Kim, what you got for us today?
Moving toward the Earth's enormous velocity.
Hyra.
Thank you.
Knowledge far in advance of our own.
That's a smart thing.
Contact has established. We now transmit you direct. Item 9. Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific.
All right, so I be saving articles and stuff that I think are interesting all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, why don't I go through and read one of those?
Ooh, from the past.
And see what I thought was interesting. And it started from another BuzzFeed article, which led me to an article on another, because it was like referencing other articles, and so it led me to another article that happens to be printed in GQ magazine. Mm-hmm. And I thought it'd be interesting to you because it's right in your line of stuff that you usually talk about on here. Ooh. So I wanted to read this because it was interesting, but I'm just gonna give a little bit of backstory, so I'm not gonna do like an in-depth about the person that it's on. Okay. So, have you ever heard of Robert Ben Rhodes?
Oh my god, that name sounds so familiar. I've heard the name, yes, but I don't remember.
Okay, he is what they call the truck stop killer. He's a serial killer and rapist.
Oh my god.
He is still alive. He ended up being convicted of 3 murders and was going to be tried for 2 more, but the victims' families was like, we don't need to do all of that, and they dropped the charges.
Really? That's so
But he's
weird.
also suspected of killing, because he's already not getting out, so they're just like, we don't have to do all of that. And he's also suspected of raping, torturing, and killing more than 50 women between 1975 and 1990.
Oh my god. No. That's a lot of people. That's a long time.
Yeah, it says at the time he claimed that he had been doing this for 15 years.
Fuck, man, that's crazy. And it must have stretched far and wide because he was a truck driver. You know, they be going distance.
Driving around.
They go for speed. So, like,
Yep. So
that's crazy. And you know what? I think I've heard of him, but I didn't know exactly what he did. But now that you say truck stop killer, I'm like, I do remember there was a dude who was a truck driver who'd be out there murdering people. And I think that was one of the things that freaked me out. Mm-hmm. Because I'm all like, because I used to work for a trucking company, and I would always be like, man, any of these people, any of them. But like, it's true anywhere. So like, you could be working at a fucking store and it could be anybody. So
well, the thing is, he had a type with the women that he was picking up, because during this time, people used to just hitchhike like it was a safe thing to do. Almost
safe, yeah, okay.
And so the story the article that I wanted to read was about a woman who used to do that back in the day.
Hitchhike?
Who believed that she came in contact with him. But yeah, and so just a little bit background on him. From what I can tell, like, it didn't seem like he had a rough childhood at all. He lived with his mom and his siblings. I didn't see how many. His dad was in the army, a soldier, and so when he finished, he came back home from West Germany. Mm-hmm. And then he became he worked for the fire department.
He was a firefighter?
And then he was injured in a fire and then was promoted to captain. He seemed well liked.
Huh. It's always them, man.
Well, this is the dad. And so up until there's a reason why I threw in the dad.
The dad.
Because I thought he was interesting. In 1964, though, Robert, who is the guy that we're going to be talking about, he joined the Marines and went to San Diego for basic training. That same year, his father was arrested and pleaded guilty to committing, it says, lascivious acts on a 12-year-old girl.
Lascivious acts. Hold on. Let me look up that word because that word sounds too, for it to be anything good.
The father's name was Ben. He was fired from the fire department. So. He got a suspended sentence and was placed on parole. Then a second girl came forward, and then they issued a warrant for his arrest. And then 2 days later, he was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
The dad?
The dad.
Well, yeah, so, like, you know, when you become a fucking pedophile, like, I would hope you would go murk yourself.
Man. So during this time, you know, Robert, he went off into the Marines, where he ended up being dishonorably discharged for taking part in a robbery.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Then it's like he moved back home with his mom. He worked several jobs and stuff. Got married and divorced a couple of times, and then fathered a child. And then in about 1973, his job became listed as truck driver. So around 1973 is when he started becoming a truck driver, driving the roads. So this article is called "The Truck Stop Killer." It's from GQ magazine.
GQ magazine has some really good stuff.
Which I didn't know, because when I read this, I was like, ooh, GQ magazine, but maybe I got to start reading more of their stuff.
They have a lot of stuff about, like, you know, serial killers, murders, just
that's
all
weird.
kinds of stuff.
You know what? It would, I don't know, maybe just from my personal experience, it seems like it would make, because GQ magazine is a magazine that's geared more towards men. It would, for me, it seems like it would make more sense if these types of things would be in magazines more towards women.
Hey, you know,
like you would read Women's Health magazine and then it'd be full of true crime or something. I don't know. But then the thing is, like, a lot of the magazines that show true crime and stuff don't ever like have a woman's appeal or whatever. But
yeah, I don't know. True crime is fair game. Anybody can be in it. For some reason, I just think it gets more like attention because more women, I guess, like to talk about it more than men do.
Well, but you also have to take into account that more women are victims in these.
That's true. No, you're right.
Yeah,
but I guess that's why we read it.
You start
because,
watching it because you're like, that's scary.
Me.
Exactly. That could have happened to me. And then you just keep watching them, keep reading about them.
Like fucking BTK. That motherfucker had me all fucked up all my childhood. Like, I'd be going in, check my closets. You know, either I'm going to get murdered by someone hiding in a closet or I'm going to disappear in a closet. I don't know which one it is. The best. No say. So
we both have an issue with closets.
Definitely.
All right, so in the summer of 1985, somewhere near Martinsburg, Pennsylvania, the body of a young woman was pulled from a truck stop dumpster.
Oh.
I had just hitched a ride and was sitting in a nearby truck waiting for the driver to pay for gas so we could leave. When they found her, there was a shouting. A man from the restaurant ran out and started yelling for everyone to stay away as a small crowd gathered around the dumpster in the rain. Word filtered back that the dead girl was a teenage hitchhiker.
Oh, poor girl. She had so much to live for.
I guess back during this time, a lot of people were teenage hitchhikers because the woman who wrote this article was also a teenage hitchhiker around the same age.
Well, like, teenagers can't afford their own cars, so they wouldn't
But
need
at
to
that time,
hitchhike
they
from
was
someone.
just leaving home.
But I also think about it like this too. Like, teenagers are just children. They might be a little older, but they're still kids.
Still children, yep.
And they don't understand that people can be dangerous. They have that mentality where, like, oh, it's all gonna be fine. Like, people do this anyway. Just like little kids go take random food from strangers, go into the trucks and shit like that. So it's like, I feel like it's the same kind of mindset. But I guess they were adult hitchhikers too, so I don't know what to say about them.
I remember thinking it could be me, since I was also a teenage hitchhiker. Watching the driver of my truck walk back across the wet asphalt, a second thought arose. It could be him. He could be the killer. The driver reached the cab, swung up behind the wheel, and said we should get going. He said he didn't want to get caught up in anything time-consuming. Stowing his paperwork, he released the brake. Neither of us said anything about the dead girl. As we pulled away, I looked once more in the side mirror. They were stringing crime tape around the dumpster just as another state trooper rolled into the lot.
I don't even know if I would take that ride. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, you know what? I'm good.
But where is she supposed to go? At this point, she's an experienced hitchhiker. But at the same time, she doesn't, like, reading this article, she doesn't explain, like, what she did in the meantime. Like, did she get jobs and stuff? Like, why she was still hitching around? Like, she doesn't explain any of that.
I don't know. I was going to say, like, I would ask one of the officers for a ride, but, like, we just did a story
where are you
about...
going? I know. You can't trust nobody.
Can't trust nobody.
That ride turned out to be fine. We drove up to Ohio, drinking Diet Coke and listened to Bruce Springsteen. The trucker bought me lunch and didn't even try to have sex with me, which made him a prince in my world.
Wow.
Several days later, though, heading south on I-95 through the Carolinas, I got picked up by another trucker who was not fine. I don't remember much about him except that he was taller and leaner than most truckers and didn't wear jeans or t-shirts.
What did he wear then?
He wore a cotton button down with the sleeves rolled up neatly over his biceps and had the cleanest cap I ever saw.
He's crazy.
He must have seemed okay, or I wouldn't have gotten in the truck with him. Once out on the road, though, he changed. He stopped responding to my questions. His bearing shifted. He grew taller in his seat, and his face muscles relaxed into something both arrogant and blank. Oof. Then he started talking about the dead girl in the dumpster and asked if I had ever heard of the Laughing Death Society. We laugh at death, Society? He told me.
Would laugh at death?
We laugh at death.
Oh, we laugh at death. Hold on, let me look these people. I've never heard of the Laughing Death.
But at the same time, I kind of feel like maybe he made that up, but I'm going to continue while you look it up. A few minutes later, he pulled the truck onto the shoulder of the road by some woods, took out a hunting knife, and told me to get into the back of the cab. I began talking, saying the same things over and over. I said I knew he didn't want to do it. I said it was his choice. I said he could do it in a few minutes. I said it was his choice. I said I wouldn't go to the cops if nothing happened to me, but it was his choice, until he looked at me and I went still. There was going to be no more talking. I knew in my body that it was over. Then he said one word: run. Without looking back, I ran into the woods and hid. I stayed there until I saw the truck pull onto the interstate. It was getting dark.
Fuck.
I was still in shock, so I walked back out onto the same road and started hitching south. I never went to the police and didn't tell anyone for years.
Oh my god. I don't Oh my god.
This spring, a friend sent me a news story link about a serial killer with the subject line, "Is this your guy?" The serial killer's name was Robert Ben Rhodes. Rhodes was a long-haul trucker in jail since 1990, who had recently been convicted of a couple of new cold cases. I didn't recognize him from the initial photos, but as I found pictures of him as a younger man, his face came to seem more familiar. The glasses were the same, the curve of the cheekbone, and something about the expression, particularly the set of the mouth. It had the same neutral arrogance. Rhodes looked like the guy who picked me up, but then Rhodes looked like a lot of guys.
True.
He would only have been 39 at the time, and I remember the trucker as an older man with light brown or graying hair. To a teenager, though, someone pushing 40 is pretty old, and hair often looks darker in photos. The light in my memory is strange, too. It was a cloudy day just before a summer storm, and everything in the truck is cast in gray. I mean, the fact that she survived this, like, that she was able to escape or whatever, like, it would have been a while before they found her body. If a summer storm was coming out in the woods. Like,
it would have just washed it away somewhere. Like, who knows if they would have even been... You know what? Sometimes when there are these storms, like, you know, it washes the body down and then it puts dirt over them. So all we know, like, she would have never been found at all.
Yeah, also depending on, like, the severity of the storm. Like, who knows? After receiving my friend's email, I left messages with the FBI, but was relieved when they were not returned. The memory was 27 years old, and nothing in it was actionable. The photos stayed in my head, though, and with them came questions. What if the man who pulled the knife on me really did murder the hitchhiker? Why did he let me go? Who was the girl in the dumpster? Why didn't I go to anyone? I needed to understand what my responsibility was and to find my own answers, if nobody else's. So I began to look.
That's crazy.
I had no fascination with serial killers, so I didn't realize that Rhodes was famous. There are articles, TV episodes, and books on him. Driven to Kill, Roadside Prey, Killer on the Road. And from those sources, I learned that every grime and secret fear I have about the human race is manifest in Robert Ben Rhodes. Rhodes was a sexual sadist. He kidnapped women, tortured and raped them for weeks before killing them. What is known about him in the 80s is murky. He was involved in the BDSM and swinger scene in his hometown of Houston. He was married. When he was caught, he said that he had been doing this for 15 years. Which would put the onset of his murders back into the 70s. His trucking logs place him in the area of 50 unsolved murders in the 3 years prior to his arrest alone.
Fuck, man. That's...
While not all 50 cases have been tied to Rhodes yet, and Rhodes himself has admitted to only 3 murders, the FBI has strong reason to believe that at his peak he was killing 1 to 3 women a month.
Yeah, it was a lot easier to do unfortunately, it was a lot easier to do these things back in the day. Like, you know, there was so much trust back then. People didn't know people would be capable of doing these kind of things. So it's like, it just sucks knowing that this was so easy to do. Like, you know, now I feel like people know better, like stranger danger, all that kind of shit. But it's just unfortunate for all the people who couldn't know these things in the past, and then they just got. And
because even like as we go through this article, I feel like the dangers that she had in mind of, you know, living the life of a hitchhiker weren't murder. It was like definitely being raped, being touched, you know, being sexually assaulted, but not raped. I mean, but not murdered. Not murdered, you know. And then, you know, they find a girl's body and all of a sudden she's like, welp. That girl was around my age, doing the same thing I'm doing, because the girl was a hitchhiker, not a prostitute. Yeah. And she still ended up dead, you know?
It's just, I always hope, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no proof that there's an afterlife. I like to believe that there's an afterlife. And I always hope that these people who do fucked up shit like this, that they get exactly what they did to someone else happen to them in their next life, and they just live that over and over and over again. Because this shit is just so, like, what the fuck? You are already part of BDSM crowd. Like, you guys are consenting adults down to do that shit. Like, what else do you want? Like, why?
He should be receiving what he was looking for. Because, okay, like, with BTK, he was living, like, a super white bread life. And so those BDSM, like, urges, not making an excuse for him.
Definitely
like,
not.
He was, in his own way, trying to find a way to release them. Because I guess he just couldn't ask his wife to participate. But then this guy, whatever wife he had at that time,
she was down.
Participating.
Yeah, she was down.
There's a picture of him with like the leather and chains outfit on. Like, he's out there actively participating in the lifestyle, but murderers gotta murder, I guess.
Like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Like, you could be out there having, first of all, cheaters gonna cheat, whatever. But he can literally be going out there, sleeping with a whole bunch of other women, who are down with BDSM, doing what he likes to do, and he could go back to them. But instead, he decides that he's gonna go out there and murder people. Not saying that these girls would have been down, like, these are children. First of all, this should have never happened.
Yeah, because I think they're all, like, teenage hitchhikers. Yeah.
So it's like, first of all, this should have never happened. But, like, he could have definitely found people in other places that who would have been down. Yeah, who are willing and down to do this stuff. And they could have been, what they say, 18 is legal. And if she's 18 and down to do it.
Yeah, and then depending on what state, there is different ages. But
yeah, so for me, it's just, I don't get it. Like, why do you have to kill someone?
Well, that's the question for all serial killers.
I know a lot of people say, like, they like having that, like, that power to know that control, they can take that. Yeah, but BDSM is the same. Like, obviously, I'm going to say fucking.
Well, I think the issue is that with BDSM, it's willingly given. Yeah. They want to take it.
No, I know. But it's just like.
Yeah.
I'm just so mad. Like,
yeah, it's rough. Yeah.
Oh, fuck this
Rhodes. Rhodes was first arrested when an Arizona state trooper found a screaming woman named Lisa Pinnell. Also, the names of the women, like victims and stuff, a lot of them are changed in here, but it's fairly easy to look it up to see who they are. Especially like the notable ones, what their real names are. Because when I was reading this other article talking about him specifically, not this girl, but another girl's name, I was like, oh, like they just changed her last name. But
yeah, I think I had that same issue with fucking the Amityville murders. Remember how he had that one girlfriend
name, plus they had the movie thing.
Yeah, all this shit.
You gotta have like one of those conspiracy boards just to be like, well, this person is this person.
You have my hair all fucking fucked up, like.
Man, Rhodes was first arrested when an Arizona state trooper found a screaming woman named Lisa Pinnell chained in the back of his cab. He was charged with kidnapping and assault. What put him away for life, though, was the rape and murder of Regina Walters, a 14-year-old girl from Pasadena, Texas. Rhodes picked her up along with her boyfriend, Ricky Jones, in February 1990. Jones was promptly killed, and his remains were discovered later in Mississippi. It's just crazy. Like, he picked them up. I'm going to assume in Texas, and then they end up, I don't know, in Mississippi. And that's where he dropped the boyfriend's body. Rhodes kept Regina for at least 2 weeks. He shaved her head and pubic hair, pierced her with fishing hooks, dressed her up in a black dress and heels, and photographed her in moments of terror. Then killed her with a garrote, which I just found out is just like a form of strangulation, made of baling wire, leaving her 100-pound body to decompose in a barn in Illinois off Interstate 70.
What the fuck is up with this dude? Girl. What the fuck? Lip dick motherfucker over there? Shit.
Behind the tragic elements of Regina's story, like some kind of pentimento, I saw my own. Like me, she left home with her older boyfriend. Also, like me, Regina became dependent upon the grace of truck drivers. In her weeks with Rhodes, many drivers saw her, but somehow no alarm was raised. She passed through that world as if she were invisible.
I don't know. I just think it's so crazy. Like, it's just when you go with someone, you always think you're safer when you're with two people, especially a dude. You know what I mean?
Oh,
you're
yeah.
Like,
and he's promptly murdering the boyfriends.
Yeah.
If he picks up a girl that has a boyfriend, immediately kills the boyfriend.
My thing is, like, she must have seen it. Like, what happened?
Must have seen what?
Him getting murked.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it obviously happened right in front of her.
Yeah, but I think he also used it as a fear tactic because the fact that people had seen her with him, he's keeping her for weeks. And then she didn't escape, didn't run away,
Yeah.
She could have just been traumatized and didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then still end up being murdered.
I don't know. Yeah. It's just crazy because I feel like if you witness something like that and you already see someone has killed somebody, I would assume that
they're
gonna kill you. Yeah, and there's nothing
you
can
do. We also don't know where it happened. He could have drove them out to the middle of nowhere and killed the boyfriend, and then there's nowhere for her to go, no way for her to get back.
But you know how she said that they said how she was spotted with other people, like, she didn't run or anything like that. Like, my ass, soon as we get there, I'm running somewhere. I see a lot of people, I'm like, this dude's fucking crazy, he's murking me. I don't think he's gonna go out there and fucking start killing all these people who are there. I'm sure the first thing he's gonna do is run, get in his truck, and go.
Because I don't know. Like, as we go through the article, you kind of get the mindset of a teenage hitchhiker. I can understand why they would. Because even the author, she was thinking back, like, why didn't I say anything back then? And she's like, because I don't think anyone would believe me.
Yeah.
A teenage hitchhiker. Like, everyone just assumes all of us are prostitutes or what they call lot lizards. So it wouldn't have even mattered what I said. So I'm pretty sure the girl just didn't know what to do.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like, I keep forgetting that these are teenagers. Because, a lot of, when you're a kid, you always feel like there's nothing you can do.
No
These
one's
people
gonna
have
believe
you. Yeah. Like, no one's gonna believe you. These people are bigger than you. No matter what you do, you're just gonna be fucked. So I can see it. I guess it's just, I'm seeing it as, I guess, an adult. And being like, dude, if he's gonna kill me, at least I'm gonna do everything I can to be like, at least have all these people see me get murked. So I don't know. You don't know what you're gonna do until you're actually there living it. So, who the fuck am I to say shit? You know what I mean? This poor girl, man. It just sucks. It's just no words. Keep going, please.
In 1985, my biggest problem was sleep. There was no safe way for me to get it. I left home in early January, hitchhiking south from New York City with my 21-year-old boyfriend. We had $60 and a Smith & Wesson 5-shot with one bullet in it, which we accidentally fired off in a field in Maryland during a discussion about whether the safety was on.
Oh.
I had a guitar and a knapsack full of souvenirs of my girlhood, notes from friends, earrings, song lyrics. I was 15.
Yeah.
She was 15 with a 21-year-old boyfriend.
21-year-old boyfriend.
But you know what?
Weston.
But you know what, though? We knew somebody that liked that, too, back in the day.
No, that's true. You're right.
People don't leave home because things are going well. They leave because they feel they have to. And right or wrong, that's how I felt. I lived with my mom in New York, and the fights between us were growing in intensity and emotional violence. I don't think either of us knew what to do about it. There was talk of me going to live with my dad in Virginia, where I had traditionally spent my summers. By then, though, I had been kicked out of 2 schools for absences and was cutting myself regularly. My emotions were a planet around which I spun like a moon. As I saw it, it didn't matter if I left because in so many ways I was already gone. On my way out, I destroyed every single picture of me over the age of 12 so that there would be nothing to give to the police.
Oh, wow.
The fact that she was like, you know what? Rip all the pictures. Pictures have to go.
Man, imagine just being in that mindset. Like,
yeah.
I'm just not shit and it doesn't matter what happens to me. Poor thing. Fuck, that sucks.
That first night, my boyfriend and I stayed in an abandoned barn in Maryland. It was off the side of a freeway and probably very much like the one Regina Walters was found in. The barn had a loft with wind coming through broken slats and was surrounded by the same kind of brown grassy field and frozen mud like Regina. I also had a little journal and probably wrote something in it that night because it was far too cold to sleep. We were back on the road before dawn, walking down the highway covered in black ice, shivering in our hoodies. A trucker picked us up at daybreak, and I rode in a semi for the first time.
That could not be me. I first of all, I don't want to sleep on the floor. I don't want to be cold. And, like, I just, being in a barn, there, like, critters and shit like that.
Girl, we used to sleep outside in the woods at camp.
That's camping. I decided to do that for fun. Like, I'm like, that's just gonna be me for a week. Not for my whole life. I'm not trying to make this a lifelong journey. Like, no thank you.
I don't think they had long-term plans for this.
I think she had no plans. Like,
yeah,
my
that's
thing...
what I said.
Yeah, like, with her, for all she knew, this could have been her whole life. Like, me, when I go camping, I know that's only for a week and I'm coming back home.
I don't know. Like, going through, like, researching this, in my mind, I was like, okay, so what's my, like, understanding of a hitchhiker? And I think the majority of my understanding for hitchhikers is from when we read Into the Wild about Chris Mccandless.
I did not read that.
Oh, you didn't read Into the Wild?
Nah.
Oh, okay. So when I had to read Into the Wild, which I've read also as an adult too, I think I have it on my Nook. Chris Mccandless, he graduated, which I kind of want to like do something on him too, because his story is interesting. Like, Pearl Jam was inspired by him. Like, he's a whole thing, but basically
Pearl Jam was inspired by a lot of people, so
but basically he graduated from college and just decided, I'm going to the woods. And he, you know, gave up his apartment, gave up all his money to charity, got his mail sent to his parents' house like 2 weeks after he was gone or something, like dipped out. But so when he's hitchhiking and stuff, he at some points, because, you know, he needs supplies and food and whatever, goes into small towns and stuff and works, get jobs for little points of time so that he can, you know, get stuff. So I was wondering if it's the same for like these women, because this is like the women's perspective. Like, it was much more safer for him because this is a grown man,
he's a man,
in his early 20s. You know, hitchhiking, like, you know, he's doing more camping than hitchhiking, but he's still hitchhiking around and
Definitely.
You know, kind of relying on the kindness of strangers. But then, but that's all, that was in the 90s. So I mean, it wasn't that far after her experience. Yeah. So it's just like, at no point was he like, oh, I'm gonna get murdered out here.
But he wasn't thinking about no John Wayne Gacy out there. So like
none of that. So,
but you know what? I feel like these women, like you said earlier too, they weren't thinking about getting murdered either. They were just thinking the worst that can happen to me is I'm gonna get raped. Yeah. Which, like, in my head, I'm like, that could be just as bad.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, like, there's some very violent rapes out there. And it's just like, first of all, some of them end up in the hospital to get stitched back up. So it's all like, I don't know how come they're just like, well, that's the worst that could happen. I'm like, girl, that's pretty bad.
You know, everybody's perspectives are different. That's all I can chalk it up to.
Oh, God.
Okay, being up high, warm, and looking out over traffic was a great improvement. The trucker bought us chicken fried steak, chatted amicably, and let us nap in the cab while he drove. While we were asleep, he pulled into a small truck stop, and I woke to his hand down my shirt. Oh, I kept my eyes closed, stayed still, and then rolled away from him, pretending I was still asleep. A few minutes later, I got up like nothing had happened. The trucker went to pay for gas, and my boyfriend and I went to use the bathroom. When we came back, the truck was gone, and every reminder of home with it. My guitar, my knapsack, everything except the Smith & Wesson, which we sold later in New Orleans.
Shit.
He just took their stuff.
That's fucked up.
He felt her up while she was asleep.
And took her shit.
And then took their stuff, yeah.
That's fucked up. Oh, Jesus, take the wheel.
That first ride was a preview of how it would often go for me with truckers. Dodging sex and getting stranded. But I had learned one crucial lesson. When a truck slows down, you get up. Getting sleep was pretty easy with a boyfriend because one of us could always stay awake. 6 weeks later, though, we parted ways. Somewhere in Arizona, we had a fight in a gas station off I-10, and we each climbed into separate trucks, and that was it. I was on my own. Without fake ID, I couldn't stay in a shelter. Sleeping by myself on the street made me a target, and having sex with some creepy old dude for a spot on a mattress also held little appeal. So I went back to hitchhiking in circles and discovered a state of half consciousness wherein I could be asleep and not asleep at the same time. I could rest but not dream. I could tell you that the last 3 songs played on the radio if you asked, but only if you asked. If you didn't, I had no memory of them at all.
That's crazy. You know what? This kind of reminds me of, like, we gotta remember, we come from fucking ancient line of fucking, what is it, Homo sapiens or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, that's literally how we lived when we had all these creatures out there that could kill us. Like, we would have to learn how to half sleep so we could be awake.
Well, I think that's also why humans are like have pack mentality, and so people would always often be in like tribes and whatnot. No, people didn't often go off by themselves.
No, that's true. It's just, and also I feel
For
like
safety.
Yeah. But a lot of soldiers have to learn how to do that too, because when you're in the middle of a war, you got to do the same thing. So this girl is literally living like in a war zone, or like back in the day. When
unsafe
fucking
environment.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I just think humans are cool that we can do this kind of shit. Like, just like, okay, I'm awake. What's going on now? Can owls do that shit too, though?
I'm pretty sure all animals can do that.
You know what? I didn't want to be called an animal, first of all.
Okay, you can pretend like we ain't, but it is what it is. I'm like, we're mammals. And so are animals. So
let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel.
Moving on.
Sorry.
I stuck to trucks because they were safer than cars. When you get in a truck at a truck stop, everyone notices. They chatter about it on the CB, and you are driven off in what amounts to a huge billboard advertising the name of the company. I needed visibility to stay alive. But it was also a dangerous form of brinksmanship, because if a trucker was going to cross the line, the higher the stakes meant he was going to do it for real. There was a gap before that line, and most truckers wouldn't take it that far. I lived in that gap.
I don't understand what that means. Sorry.
Okay, so basically she was saying, like, most truckers didn't go past, like, the line of, being aggressive, I guess, or, like, going too far.
Mm-hmm.
But there was always a level of amount of something that they would go towards, and so she pretty much was trying to stay in a safe space,
which is just getting Copperfields, and that's it.
I guess, I don't know. She doesn't go into detail.
But you know what? Same. If I had to choose between getting raped and getting fondled, I'd rather get fondled. Yeah.
Truck stops in the 1980s were closed worlds where what went on passed unnoticed on the outside. The stores were dimly lit and filled with smoke, radically different from the family travel plazas of today. Magazine porn often dominated the aisles, glossies like Hustler and Barely Legal, but also newsprint rags with cheap color covers. Bottles of isobutyrol nitrate and Rogut aphrodisiacs like Locker Room and Spanish Fly crowded the counters by the register. Along with the iconic bumper sticker, ass, gas, or grass, no one rides for free.
Hey, at least they were like, this is what we need. Yeah, the options. They weren't hiding, and you're like, you know what? I'm either going to give ass, grass, or...
No, you're going to either give... Because they got the truck.
Well, what did it say? Ass, grass, or pass? Is that what we said?
Or cash. No, ass, gas, or grass.
Oh, yeah. So I'm like, I'm either going to have to give some ass, some gas, or some grass. Yeah. I got to pick. I'd rather give some gas. Free. But, But, I like that straightforwardness. You know what I mean? All truck drivers who were like that needed to have a little...
You know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Back then, though, my thoughts weren't on misogyny. They were on logistics. I needed to find rides and usually couldn't get into the restaurant. The general rule was that you were a prostitute until proven otherwise, and then you were still a prostitute. Whoa. Waitresses were the first to kick you out. That forced me into asking for rides in the hallways by the showers. Over time, I learned safer ways of getting rides by having truckers navigate the CB radio for me. Women couldn't really get on the zoo channel, as they called it then, because the sound of their voice would trigger 20 minutes of crash chatter. There was only one word for a woman on the CB, and it was beaver. Even the guys who were trying to help had used it. They had to make up stories for me. I got a beaver, needs a ride to Flagstaff for her grandma's funeral. Don't want no trouble. Come on back. There was always a sick mom or dead grandparent involved, and I was almost always abandoned by my jerk of a boyfriend who'd made off with all my money and my car.
But that sounds pretty true. listening to this girl's story, it just like, man, I am too young for all this shit, because half the stuff they be talking about, I'm like, what? Like, what is going on? Or maybe it's still going on and we're just not hitchhikers. I don't know.
Who knows?
Sheesh.
Through these stories, I jumped from truck to truck. Like a lemur in a canopy of trees, I barely saw the ground. Even so, it still wasn't safe to sleep. Adhering to my rule that the only safe truck was a moving truck meant I woke when the truck took an exit. I woke when it slowed for traffic, when it turned, when it downshifted, when it drifted towards the shoulder. I woke. Wearing down from lack of sleep and trying to get a handle on my risk level, I began to work off a 1 to 5 scale of sexually aggressive behavior. 1. You, the driver, kept your urges to yourself. 2. You asked me to have sex and offered to pay. 3. You told me I owed you sex for the ride and chicken fried steak and threatened to drop me off somewhere dangerous. 4. You dropped me off somewhere dangerous. 5. I had to jump when you slowed down because you were going to rape me.
Oh my God.
Most truckers occupied the middle of the scale, but the trucker who resembled Rhodes didn't have a place on it. Anyone who pulls a knife on you in an enclosed space like a truck is terrifying. But beyond that, it was the man's demeanor that was so chilling. He wasn't nervous, angry, or excited. He was grave and methodical, as if preparing to dress a deer.
Go ahead.
From reading about Rhodes, I knew that he preferred hitchhikers to prostitutes and specifically targeted runaways. I also knew the first thing he did was to get them into the back of his sleeper cab, which had anchored points for shackles. But I hadn't seen any shackles. I only saw the man with the knife. It has to be him, a friend told me. How many of those guys could there be? According to the FBI, quite a few. In 2009, the feds
That's exactly
went
what I was going to say.
with a program called Highway Serial Killings Initiative in response to the rising number of dead bodies found along interstates. And this is in 2009. Some of these were women left. Yeah, it says, according to the FBI, quite a few. In 2009, the feds went public with a program called Highway Serial Killings Initiative in response to a rising number of dead bodies found along the interstates. Some of those were women left in dumpsters. Narrowing the field to those last seen around truck stops and rest areas, the Bureau counted over 500 bodies, almost all women. Of the 200 people on the suspect list, almost all of them were long-haul truckers.
Oh my God.
But nobody had to tell me that people like Rhodes killed people like me and got away with it. Going through the truck stops, I'd heard about women getting their throats slit or strangled. I'd heard of at least one who got hung up on a meat hook in the back of a refrigerated trailer because a trucker thought she had given him VD. At night, I listened to those voices of prostitutes on the CB, barely intelligible between streams of name-calling. Hello, honey, it's me, Sugar Bear, and Party Row. Anyone want to party? Lot lizards is what truckers call prostitutes who work truck stops. And since many drivers didn't distinguish between hitchhikers and prostitute, I was a lot lizard too.
Hell no. This dude has the audacity to be mad because he thought someone gave him some sort of STD when he's out here fucking asking for this shit. Yeah. How is it his? Like, I'm sure if it was up to her,
unprotected, then that is a great risk to yourself.
And I'm sure that if he would have just not said shit, he wouldn't have got shit. So this was all him. He deserved that. He asked for it. He got what he wanted. She just didn't say she had it. He did ask her.
But then the thing is, it's not even clarified if that's where he got it from.
Definitely. I mean, he could have got it from anywhere.
He blamed her. It could have been a number of prostitutes that he was seeing. Yeah.
Oh my God. That kind of shit just grinds my fucking gears so bad. Because it's all like, dude, no one put a gun up to your head to have sex with her. If anything, I'm sure you're the one who told her, well, you owe me. And she's like, well, I guess.
Or if she's a prostitute, like, you didn't have to indulge.
You like know? you actively went out there to get it, first of all. So, bitch, you need to be the one on that meat hanger. Oh, God.
If we went missing, months could pass before a report was filed. And by then, there was little to connect the missing person in one state with the decomposed remains in another. When the Illinois state trooper who was trying to identify the body of Regina Walters, the girl Rhodes left in that barn, put her forensic description out on the national teletype, he was totally unprepared for the response. He requested information on missing Caucasian females ages 13 to 15 years old who had disappeared 6 to 9 months 15? Earlier. This is what the information he was looking for. He was looking for Caucasian females aged 13 to 15 years old who had disappeared 6 to 9 months earlier.
Oh,
he got over 900 matches. Well, no. This is what he was looking for. But
okay, sorry.
But
he got babies.
He got over 900 matches. There were 900 girls in that area that fit that description who were missing. Not found, who were missing.
Oh, sorry. Oh my God. It just...
You're taking this very difficult for the person who usually does the true crime stuff.
But this, honestly, when I'm...
It's different when you're saying it and when you're hearing it. You're experiencing it much differently.
No, well, when I'm reading the stuff, I go through these exact same motions. Like, I go through these exact same motions when I'm researching and stuff like that. Like, I literally have a mini breakdown every time I do true crime. But it's just like, how can you not? You know what I mean?
It's difficult to read, but I guess at that time, hitchhiking was like a big answer to this is not working.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If there was any way to connect my story to Rhodes, it would be through the body of the girl in the dumpster. Records on her will provide a date and a place that could then be checked against Rhodes' trucking logs. To at least one of my questions, was Rhodes my guy? I'd have a clear answer, a simple yes or no. I began by Googling things like dead girl truck stop Martinsburg. Nothing came up. But that wasn't too surprising. Her murder happened 27 years ago and was essentially pre-internet. I pulled up a map of Martinsburg, Pennsylvania, and that's where things started to get hazy. Martinsburg was nothing but a pinprick, just a dot on a minor route feeding into a mid-sized highway on the outskirts of Altoona, Pennsylvania. Not the sort of place you'd expect to find a busy truck stop. Had I confused the state? I did a search on towns named Martinsburg. There were 7 within range: Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Missouri, West Virginia, and New York. All less than a day's drive apart. Which is crazy. Like, why would you have all of these cities with the same name that are near each other?
Yeah, I know.
It said all less than a day's drive apart from each other. Like,
that's crazy. It's just there to fucking confuse people. That's what I feel like. It's like
Springfield. Remember we were talking about the Simpsons go out of their way to make their Springfield be every Springfield because there are several in that area. So you don't know which state it's in. No, yeah.
It's just, like I said, it's just fucking there to confuse you, man. It's just like, remember how we were talking about the Polybius thing? How if you search it online and stuff like that, it's just like you don't know which one you're going to get.
A week before the girl was found in the dumpster, I had gone to see my dad in Virginia. At the time, he was struggling himself, living with several other guys in a house where you flush a toilet with a bucket of water and working with what little construction there was in the county.
Bro, I remember that. Flushing the toilet with the bucket.
It'd be like that sometimes.
It do be like that.
I quickly realized I would have been nothing but a burden. The morning I left, I asked him to take me to the closest truck stop so I can get a ride going towards California.
Her dad took her?
It was a made-up destination, a Grapes of Wrath narrative of brighter futures. I was sure he would remember where he took me back then, so last spring I called him. I guess she told him, I'm going to go to California, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and he believed her. He was like, all
California is where your dreams come to die.
Yeah, don't come this way.
If there's anything I've learned from a lot of these aspiring actors, like a whole bunch of them,
you're going to be on drugs and it's not going to work out.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
I was sure he would remember where he took me back then, so last spring I called him. I didn't tell him about the recent inquiries at first. I just asked where he dropped me off. Without any hesitation, he said Martinsburg, West Virginia.
Oh, he remembered.
Were there any murders that summer? I asked him. There was that hitchhiker. You called and left a message a day or so after I dropped you off saying that I was going to read about a dead 17-year-old hitchhiker they found in a truck stop and that it wasn't you. She didn't remember.
My God.
That he filled in some gaps that she was looking for.
Jeez. I cannot believe she didn't remember that. But
didn't
trauma.
Remember contacting her dad to tell her.
trauma.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do that
she probably
to you.
just buried it and moved on with her. Especially since you also was sleep deprived. Like, she probably didn't remember a lot of stuff.
Fuck.
My whole body relaxed. My memory may have been bent by sleep deprivation, but I was not crazy. There was a Martinsburg truck stop somewhere in my story, and there was a dead 17-year-old hitchhiker. She had existed enough for me to call my dad all those years ago and warn him about what he would read. And if it happened, she could be found. It was just a matter of looking harder.
So pretty much this girl's trying to find that girl, or like,
well, she's just trying to connect all the dots because she just remembers this incident.
Mm-hmm.
And then hearing about this serial killer who was in that area and the fact that he looked familiar, she's like, I feel like I came in contact with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's just not sure. She's like, she knows her memory is not filling in all the pieces, especially since it's being so long ago. So she's like, okay, these are some main elements of my story. If I can find out if these things are all true or real, then I know, okay, so this definitely is the way that it happened. Mm-hmm. So the truck stop, that city, the 17-year-old found in a dumpster, like, she's like, if I can find these elements, then I know, okay, so I'm on the right track to figuring out if he was the guy.
Who
the
almost
original
got
Rhodes, me. Yeah. The original Rhodes investigation had woven a complex web, intertangling local and federal agencies in 5 different states. Eventually, the locus shifted to the Houston FBI because at some point, every thread ran through Texas. Rhodes was from Texas. His wife, Deborah Davis, was from Texas. Regina Walters and Ricky Jones were from Texas. He picked up 2 of his other victims in Texas.
Wow. Texas was like the hot spot.
Well, yeah, that's where he was from. I flew to Austin to meet with 2 retired FBI men, Special Agents Mark Young and Robert F. Lee, who both worked on the case. Young was a profiler for the Bureau, as well as a field agent. Over lunch at a local sushi place, he taught me the difference between a mode of operation and a signature. Modes of operation change.
Modus operandi.
There you go. They are more like habits, he said, and can adapt to circumstances or mood. Rhodes, for instance, had used guns and ligature strangulation and probably knives too. A signature, however, does not change. Sexual sadists in particular work off erotic maps established early on. They get more nuanced and elaborate, but the basic typography remains the same. One of Rhodes' signatures was shaving the head and pubic hair of his female victims. Piercings around the breast, bruising, and other signs of torture were also frequently found.
He would pierce them with the fish hooks, right?
Yeah.
I've always had this big fear of fishing hooks, specifically because they could go right through us. I remember that time we went fishing with the Y and stuff like that, and I was like so scared to touch the fucking fishing hook because I'm like, it's gonna go in me, and
you're like, I'm
not
going
trying
to get stabbed instead of the fish.
Honestly, I don't know. Oh man, just imagine being one of these girls who's getting tortured and he busts out the fishing hook
and just your nipple, your pierced now.
No, not my nipple. I can't.
It's not funny. We're laughing because it's awkward.
Yeah. Oh god, it's just so scary. Like, I feel like I'd be more afraid just because of the fishing hook, and you know, it's just like the initial, you know what I mean? Like, you see it, you know it's gonna happen, and you're just I feel like it's like, you know, when you get your ears pierced or you just get pierced, like, you know it's gonna hurt, but it's always like the thought of while it's happening.
It's only for a second.
Yeah, it's only for a second, but still, I feel like this was not for a second. First of all, because you're getting tortured, but like, it's just like when you see it happen, you just freak yourself out a lot more, especially since you know you're not in a safe space and you know you don't want to get pierced. So it's just like, oh my god, like
you're like, is this sterilized? Did you sterilize this fishing hook? Or
I'm sure that's not what is in my mind at that moment. I'm just like, get that away. Oh, these poor I can't.
Young, a 6'4" Texan and third-generation lawman, opened his laptop and pulled up a picture of a woman named Shauna Holtz. Name also changed. Only days before Regina Walters was taken, Rhodes had been detained by police in Houston for the possible sexual assault and kidnapping of Holtz. She'd been picked up in a truck stop, shackled into the back of the cab, tortured and raped for weeks. She'd escaped when Rhodes pulled into a Houston brewery. I'd always read that she got away because Rhodes had forgotten to chain her in. But I found out from Young that she'd not been shackled when she escaped. Rhodes had told her to sit there and be a good girl, but Holtz, 18 years old, had been on the street since she was 12. By her own account, she had been raped at least 20 times and had already had a baby. She knew how to survive. Whatever the man thought he had broken in her had already been broken and healed back stronger. She didn't do what he expected. She ran. She brought the police right back to Rhodes' truck, but then balked at pressing charges. So they had to let him go. The story was that she was too scared, but I wondered if there was more. He thought, but you know what though? That goes back to the other girl where they had seen her out with him. He probably was used to, like, you know, mentally and physically abusing these girls to the point where they think that they're stuck with him.
Yeah.
And so he thought that he'd done the same with this girl, and she just, you know, waited. Nope. And then the second that he was gone, after he didn't shackle her up, bolted. She was like, I'm out of here. Peace out.
Yeah. Same. But you know what? I think about this girl, you know, the one who survived. And pretty much what she told him was, you can do what you want to do because you're going to do whatever you're going to do. But if you don't, I ain't saying shit. I don't think someone has told him, if you're going to do it, do it.
Well, she kept saying that he didn't want to do it.
I thought she had told him, well, like, you don't want to do it, but if you're going to do it, do it. But if you don't, I'm not going to tell anyone. I thought that's what she said. Oh, no.
She said don't. She said she just kept saying you don't want to do it. If you don't do anything to me, I won't say anything. She kept saying that, yeah.
I thought she was saying, like, you don't want to do it, but if you're going to do it, you're going to do it.
Yeah, because I think if she would have given him permission, then he would have definitely done it.
I don't think so, because remember, I think the one thing he didn't want was permission.
Well, there's also that. But yeah, she didn't give him permission.
Okay. I don't know.
Maybe she didn't fit his description enough that he was like, nah.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. It just always makes me think, because I'm sure she was probably in a calm place when she's like, you don't want to do it. You know, like, you know, when you see a wild animal, relax, buddy. No one's gonna hurt you, man. So maybe he just wasn't expecting her to be so, like, calm, like, you don't want to do it.
Maybe he was gonna chase her and he changed his mind.
Maybe he was gonna what?
Chase her.
He was gonna fucking, what is that book called? The Most
Dangerous Prey or something like that.
The Most Dangerous Game or something like that.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me find what this book is called.
Well, I don't know. I remember it was a story that we read, like...
Or, yeah, story. I don't know why I thought book. I always think book when it comes to it, but it's a story.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's what I think. Maybe he forgot his gun, because it said that he didn't always have the gun, so maybe he was going to chase her and shoot her, but then he's like, dang, I left my gun.
Oof. Oh, yeah, that's what it's called. The Most Dangerous Game is Long Pig. No, I'm kidding.
Thinking about that, the Most Dangerous Game. Have you seen that movie? What is it called?
Oh, the one with the lady who's getting married.
The Hunt.
Yeah, I have not seen it.
Oh no, she's not getting married.
Oh, I thought she was getting married.
No, it's weird. It's crazy because it's like literally she wakes up, and they're pretty much all out there. They all have these things over their, like they have like ball gags in their mouth, and they have these things on them, and like. It's crazy because you follow different people for a while, like, as they all wake up out there.
Fuck.
You should watch it. It's interesting because it goes from one thing all the way to another, and you're like, wow, this is how we got here? Like, this is how we got here? But yeah, The Hunt is good. I would recommend. It was a pretty good movie. And then I should remember, like, the main chick, where have I seen her from? And then it hit me. She's on, with the women wrestlers, Glow. She's on Glow. As one of the main characters, because I was like, where have I seen her? Not to look it up, and I was like, that's where I seen her. She's in Glow.
Hey, whenever I see her on the fucking on
the poster,
the posters and stuff like that, she looks like she been through some shit, and she hard now. Like,
oh yeah, like they was not expecting for her to give them such a fight, but
hey, you know what they say, when your life's on the line,
yeah, you got to pull out the knowledge you have in the archives.
Exactly.
I looked at the picture on Young's computer. Shayna was a pretty girl with freckles and blank blue eyes. Her thick blue red
eyes.
Her thick red blonde hair had been cropped close to her head with a knife or scissors and was now growing back. With all her freckles, she looked very Irish. Around her neck was a dog chain with a padlock attached to the ring that had been used to restrain her neck. But in the picture, with her inch-long hair and dog collar, she looked like a gutter punk, like any girl you might see in any university district.
Wow.
Young then showed me some photos of Rhodes in the 1980s that had come from his wife. In one, he relaxed on the grass in a park. The natural lighting brought his hair color closer to the color I remembered. And again, the side view heightened his key similarities. His cheekbone shape, glasses, the expression. But as I had learned from the echo chambers of Martinsburg, memory is a strange territory.
Yeah.
By now, the papers and photographs were spread out all over the table, and Young was waiting for me to tell my story. Although I had told it more in the preceding week than in the past 2 decades, I still wasn't used to doing it, and the nausea still came.
Yeah.
One thing I always did, I told Young, was rifle through a trucker's cassette case as soon as we were out on the highway. This gave me a screen behind which to observe truckers when they thought I was distracted. It allowed me to pretend not to hear scary red flag comments so I could act dumb and get away later. And this is what I was doing that day. Going through the tape case, chatting like an idiot, and watching the driver, which is why I saw him change. I told Young about the Laughing Death Society. He'd never heard the phrase. I asked about the knife. Every trucker I ever met had a gun, so the knife seemed significant. He said a gun was about control, but a knife was personal.
Definitely.
I'd seen the page from Regina's little notebook on which Rhodes had drawn a picture of a gun and a huge dagger dripping blood next to the words, "Ricky is a dead man."
Who's Ricky?
Ricky was her boyfriend.
Oh, right. Is she gonna talk to the serial killer eventually?
She writes him a letter.
Uh-huh.
And then he answers back, but
it ain't shit, I'm sure.
They don't talk about it that much after that point.
Because, one thing that I've learned, I guess, from reading a lot of serial killer stuff or murderers and stuff like that, is that they don't want to talk about these kind of things unless, one, they're already convicted of that one, or two, they're trying to get some sort of special treatment or get something out of confessing another murder. So, I'm sure he doesn't want to be
just freely giving the information out.
Yeah,
which,
for sure.
When we get to that part, I thought it was a little bit funny the way he responded about it, but we'll get there.
Okay.
So, was the trucker I met a true psychopath? I asked. What I find interesting is that he told you about the body of the girl and talked about the Laughing Dead Society while he was still driving. You were not under his control. This tells me that he liked manipulating through terror, that it turned him on, just like Rhodes. Because, she's still not totally
she's not sure if
Rhodes,
it's him.
But, yeah. But a real serial killer wouldn't have let me go, right? I asked. Maybe he didn't think you'd run. Even at the time, I wondered if my running was part of the game. Rhodes was a great lover of games. His favorite book was Games People Play, wherein each social encounter is treated as a transaction or a game. One game in the book is called Courtroom, another is called Beat Me Daddy, another Frigid Woman. Beat Me Daddy? I know, just hearing those things, I'm like, should I look this book up? This sounds interesting.
Wow. Give it to me, Daddy.
Stop. How do we... How did we get here? Okay.
I don't know.
In that one, driven by penis envy, a woman's inner child taunts a man into seducing her so that she can be freed from guilt of her own sadistic fantasies. Games People Play was a Bible for Rhodes. He talked about it frequently and applied its ideas. In a letter to his wife on the subject of psychological games, he wrote, "I always told you there were 3 things you could do: play, pass, or run. The phrase play, pass, or run is used twice in the letter. Reading it, I found it hard to not hear the man telling me to run."
Run. Oh my God.
Well, this book came out in 1964, by psychiatrist Eric Byrne.
A psychiatrist wrote this?
Games people play: The Psychology of Human Relationships.
It does sound like something.
It's like an essay type. It's an essay type book.
Didn't he have like that smug type of fucking I'm better than you type of persona?
An arrogance. Yeah.
So it makes total sense that he'd be over here fucking reading psychiatrist essay about people's behavior, like,
and quoting it and discussing it with others. Yeah.
Thinking I got he's all that in a bag of chips.
Yeah, I got the sense just from reading this and the little bits that I've read, like on a couple of other articles, that he's one of those like BTK who thinks he's real smart. He thinks he's in here. I think they say that he thinks he's an expert, so it's best to like ask him like for advice, like the way you write to him. Like he's teaching you something.
So he wants to think that he's the one in control, the one with all the knowledge, and he's giving you something.
Giving you the information,
Wow. It's funny how, obviously, I'm sure he knows about this kind of stuff, and he's just like, it's like he knows this is a way to get information from someone, but he feels like no one's doing that to him. Like, dude, you ain't that special.
Man. But I think that's the issue. These men know deep down inside that they ain't.
So they need to fake it till they make it.
Yeah.
But he's in jail now. Ha! Sucker.
Yep, he ain't getting out. Okay. On the table in front of Young was a snapshot of Regina Walters that I hadn't seen, taken not very long before she was abducted. In it, she's sitting in the backseat of a car. The sun is coming down on her long hair and she's laughing. She looks like any other skinny kid just out of middle school. She looks happy. The picture was given to Young by Regina's mom. Initially, agents had disagreed over whether the young girl on Rhodes' film was Regina. It was Agent Young who recognized a small gap in Regina's teeth and noticed that a few of the freckles were in the same place. Young pulled out one last picture and slid it across to me. The photo was of a beautiful young girl, possibly Native American. She was on the end of the roll with Regina, he said. She's shown sitting in Rhodes' truck wearing a gray hoodie. Her eyes are parted slightly closed, as if she's stoned or sleepy. Rhodes must have just picked her up because he hadn't cut her hair yet. It is glossy, black, and long. No one knows who she is.
Oh my god, that sucks. Just to know that this is one of the girls who could be one of the victims that was never found.
Yep, never connected to him, yeah.
It's just rough. I always think about, the families and stuff like that, It's so hard to not know what happened to your loved one. But a lot of these kids also sound like people who came from broken homes. So sometimes it makes me wonder, like, do they even
did their family even look for them?
Yeah. This is rough.
Who knows?
Kim. Yeah. I didn't think you were gonna do this to me.
Well, I'll do something lighter next time it's my turn.
Nah, it's all right.
There's this story that I have been thinking about. It's another one where I'd be read through to you, but I just don't remember how long it is because it's been years since I read it. But it's like a crazy adventure that this girl goes on with this girl that she doesn't even know. But I just feel like it's not really like our genre of like this that we be doing, but at the same time I'm like, I think it's interesting and I think you would think it's interesting.
We have no genre. We just go with whatever we think is interesting.
One of these days I'm gonna read it. Maybe I'll do that next time. I'll look it up and see how long it takes me to read it to see if it needs to be a multiple part episode. But it's a crazy story. Like when you hear it, you're gonna be like, and then what happened? Like it's to the point where they're supposed to be making a movie about it, like a Lifetime movie about it. It's crazy. Yeah, it's a wild story. Yeah.
Lifetime be having them bangers out there.
I know. See, the thing about the Lifetime channel, I used to hate watching because you get stuck. Because you're watching a movie and they just keep showing you the preview of the next movie. Like, they don't even show you any other previews. Like, every time it's commercial break and then they show a preview of a movie, it's the next one. And you're like, dang, those 3 kids are out hitchhiking on their own. Dang, what happens? And then you get stuck and you watch that one. And then while you're watching that one, they show the preview of the next one. This woman's husband ran out and then you find out he's in a sex dungeon. Then you're like, dang, I gotta watch that one too. What happened? And then you watch, and then all of a sudden the whole day is gone because you don't sat there and watch 5 Lifetime movies in a row.
And it's like the acting in the Lifetime movies aren't even that great.
But it's the story. You want to know how these characters, because a lot of them are based off true stories.
Yeah,
you know how they got out of it.
Like, I think one of the last Lifetime movies I could remember watching was one about the girls who had like the baby pact and stuff like that. And then another one.
I've never seen that movie, but I've heard about that story.
Yeah, and then the other one where it was, I don't think this one was like, had anything to do with anything that really happened, but you know, it could have because it happens. But one of them is about a girl who gets kidnapped and she's like in a fucking like basement and stuff like that. Like,
oh no.
I remember getting stuck on that one too. And it's just like, I just had to be like, I have to get off of this. I have to leave this room.
It's like a drug. You're like, I
yeah.
have to quit cold turkey right now. I can't remember the last Lifetime movie I've seen, but I do remember they had like a show called My Life is a Lifetime Movie. And I remember I watched that. And I remember there was one, I remember two specific episodes. I remember there was one where it was a teacher and she got a job back at the school she used to go to.
She went with a child.
No, let me tell you. So the whole thing was that she was like the cool young teacher, and then I think she also helped with cheer and stuff, and then she had got a cheer uniform and she would wear it.
Wow.
Yeah, but the issue is that several of the boys at the school, I guess, started to crush on her, and then they started to lie and say that she was sleeping with them, and it got to the point where her job was on the line, like she's in court, and so the boys
That's fucked up, y'all.
I think it was two different boys, and they had both went up there and said all of this stuff that they had done with her, like all this sexual stuff. They end up being like, okay, so you're saying that you had sex with her from behind, like
didn't she have like a freckle or something like that?
So yeah, they were like, describe what the back of her looks like, and then they give like a plain like whatever description, and so then they have her, you know, on her time. Go up there, and she has like a very prominent, I think, birthmark on her back. And if they had sex with her from behind and she was naked, they would have definitely seen it, and they would have definitely be able to describe it. And the fact that she had that, they couldn't, and the charges were dropped. But at the same time, it's like the damage has already been done
to her credibility and everything.
She's a teacher, and then you have these rumors and stuff. So it's like her life was already like
fucked
struggling. And then there was another episode, which I thought it was crazy.
Fucking Lifetime.
Man, this lady, she had two kids. She was pregnant with a third kid. One day she comes home and her husband just does not come home. She's a stay-at-home mom. And so, you know, first they check her out. She checks out. You know, she was everywhere she says she was. And then, you know, they go looking for him, and then they find out, like, he be going to, like, these underground sex dungeons and all this stuff. God. I guess, you know, after a while, she, moved on. She got a new husband. You know, she works now, taking care of the kids and stuff. And then so she, I guess in the beginning, they had her to file for child support. And so she hadn't even thought about it. Like, he just dipped out. He gone. And then one day, she randomly gets a check. Whoa. Kind of find out, I forget where they were from, but kind of find out he moved out to California, don't change his name, and is just doing whatever. He just decided he didn't want responsibilities anymore. And
what a dick.
Exactly. And so what ended up happening was he opened up a bank account with his social security number, and that's how they snatched all his money out his account and gave it to her for child support. Shit. And then he was mad. He wanted her to give the money back.
Sucker, he ain't getting it.
And then on top of that, like a local news crew from where she was from came out here to talk to him, and he just was like real whatever, didn't care, like very blank.
Fuck.
Yeah, he just
crazy.
Took off. But
he's like, I'm a piece of shit, and what?
Yeah, like just imagine you're married and you're a stay-at-home mom, and you think everything is great, your husband got a good job, and then you find out, like, he goes missing, and you find out he's frequenting sex dungeons, and
that's crazy.
All of this stuff, participating in orgies and stuff, and then just leaves you.
This low-key reminds me of a Sherlock Holmes story, which had nothing to do with, like, fucking sex dungeons or anything like that, but he does go missing, and the wife finds Sherlock to go find him, and it's an interesting story. I know it's less fun than sex dungeons.
Yeah.
But it was a good story.
All right, back to this story.
Sally.
On the phone, Agent Robert F. Lee was civil and to the point, but not overtly warm. I arrived at his door melting in the 100-degree heat. He welcomed me into his spacious living room. Tall and square-jawed, Lee looked like he could probably still tackle a bank robber. Behind him was a shoulder-high pink plastic castle. Granddaughter, he said. On the couch beside me was a large pillow with an FBI seal. That's from my old SWAT jacket, he grinned. They don't use that emblem anymore. It looks too much like a target.
Oh, shit.
The question of what to do with your old SWAT jacket when you retire had never entered my mind. Clearly, the answer is make a throw pillow.
You know what? Smart. Recycling. I can get down with that.
Upcycled, yep. I got the sense Lee appreciated brevity, so I dispensed with small talk and went straight to my questions. But he stopped me. I just want you to know, he said, looking me squarely in the eye, that what Rhodes did to women, he did to women. You didn't do it. Everything.
Oh, that's so nice of him.
Yeah, pretty much telling her straight off, like,
it's not your fault.
Stop blaming yourself, yeah. Everything I
Who
expected.
Who is this, Robert L. Lee?
Yeah, Robert F. Lee.
Robert F. Lee, you the real one. This drink's for you, sir. It's just so nice that he told her that because, you know, she went a long time without saying anything. And I'm sure, like, in the back of her mind, it was like, if I would have said something earlier, maybe some of these deaths could have been prevented. And it's just like, oof, that must be something hard to live with, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Everything I expected from Bob Lee changed in that moment. I had not told him or anyone else how I felt about failing to go to the cops. These were my private feelings. The idea that I might have been responsible for what happened to the girls like Regina was devastating, and Lee's directness startled me. It was a raw moment, so I told him the truth, which I had not told others, that I didn't say anything because I didn't think anyone would believe me.
Yeah.
Well, said Lee, sitting back after I finished, you're probably right. Look at Lisa Pinnell. Pinnell was the woman chained into Rhodes' truck when they arrested him in Arizona. When rescued, she was wearing fuzzy lion slippers, talking secret prisons, and being on a mission to see the president. Just the kind of testimony that makes most detectives stop taking notes since they're looking at someone who can't stand trial. Her statement was videotaped the night she was freed from Rhodes' truck. Lee still uses the tape when he trains police detectives on interrogation. He shows it and asks what they think is going on. Most say she's a prostitute and that it's a transaction gone bad. Between Pinnell and Rhodes, it's Rhodes they believe. Of course, Lee says, Lisa was talking all sorts of crazy stuff. Microchips in her brain, holes in the ozone layer. She was wearing those slippers, but she was telling the truth.
The truth. Yeah.
I had a vision of Lisa Pinnell as a truck stop Callie roaming the back lots in her denim shirt and fuzzy slippers with an ozone hole for a halo. She would be easy to dismiss. Rhodes initially chose women who lacked credibility. Sometimes, as with Shayna Holtz, the girl who had escaped in the brewery, the sense of not being credible was internalized. Lee told me that the final lines of Holt's police statement read, I don't see any good in filing charges. It's just going to be my word against his. If there was any evidence, I would file. I would file charges and sue him. It took me a second to understand those last sentences. What evidence was she lacking? She was found running naked, screaming down the street in Houston with DNA all over her body. Her head and her pubic hair shaved, still with his chain around her neck. How could she lack evidence? But I thought about what she'd said. It would just be my word against his, which was clearly followed by the unvoiced thought, and who was going to believe me? I could easily imagine my own teenage voice whispering those same words.
Yeah. This is so rough because it's like, it doesn't matter if she's a prostitute. It doesn't matter that she wasn't supposed to be, you know, hitchhiking with random strangers or whatever. What does matter is that this woman was chained up. She was shaven. She called the police to come help her. and they still believed this guy over her just because he looked cleaner and he looked more sane than she did.
Yeah,
I'm like, that does not excuse the fact that he did this.
Yeah, and that's not even taking in account that it's a regular looking white guy. Mm-hmm. And they always believe regular looking white guys.
Oh yeah, definitely. If he would have been some black guy and this little Caucasian girl would have came running out here saying this dude did this to me with the quickness, no fucking questions asked, guilty.
Yeah,
he'd probably be in jail right now. You know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Like, it's crazy. It could have been anyone. It could have been a Hispanic person. Anyone who's not Caucasian would have easily, with the quickness, been taken to jail. Even if he didn't do it. They wouldn't have given him that benefit of doubt.
No.
Nobody.
Not at all.
It's just, I don't know. It's just so upsetting. Like, they have the DNA evidence. He was with her. She's... Sometimes I'm all like, girl, you could have just kept your mouth shut on some of these things. But you know what? If you don't know, you don't know. But it's just so upsetting. It's just so upsetting.
The more I learned about Rhodes, the more I saw parallels between us. It wasn't lost on me that while I was hitchhiking and he was driving, we would both have struggled with some of the same challenges. Sleep deprivation and the hypnotic dullness of going through identical locations over and over, a world constructed of boredom and violence. And while I was getting more adept at survival, he was very likely getting more adept at killing. We both had our own systems, our own rituals, and our own beliefs about what people were really like and how they acted under pressure. Dude. I put off writing Rhodes mostly because I didn't want him to write me back. The time had come to do it anyway. Mark Young said Rhodes likes to feel like an expert and that I should ask him to educate me. So while writing a letter, I used permissive language saying I wanted him to teach me what I did right and what I did wrong when I was traveling. Knowing the capacity of his sadism made this unbearable. Rhodes didn't live a double life as much as a shadowed one. There's a picture of him in leather and chains that floats around the internet. It's actually from a Halloween party in Houston where he went as a slave led on a chain by his wife who was dressed as a dominatrix.
Wow.
Let me show you this picture because
show it to me.
I saw this picture and this is what made me read this article.
Oh, wow. You know what? He's not an ugly guy. He's a pretty handsome man.
He's a regular looking white guy.
Yeah. You know, he's not ugly is what I'm saying. You know, he's like, it's just crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, really, dude?
Well, I'm telling you, I think it was about that control. Like, he, you know, has access to willing participants, but he doesn't want willing participants. He wants someone who doesn't want to participate and he wants to force himself.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like
he wants to hurt them.
Yeah. I feel like in his relationship with him and his wife, I feel like his wife was a dominatrix. Because there's no way in hell, there's no way that a dom would ever take a role of a submissive like he did with her.
Well, it was just for a Halloween party.
I know. I feel like it doesn't matter. I feel like if you are a dom, you're not going to want to be seen as a sub at all, even at a party.
I don't know. I think it also depends on what kind of dom you are. But
yeah, I don't know. I feel like for him,
I don't have a lot of knowledge on like the dominant submissive type relationships. So.
No, it's definitely true. But I'm just saying from what we've heard about him, I can't see him doing that.
Well, at the same time, like remember, you know, he was probably one way around people he knew and another way around the hitchhikers. So
that's what I'm saying. I think that's probably why
he could have just been like, this is a joke, this is funny, ha 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 out there, and then turn around and be entirely serious with the hitchhikers.
No, that's what I'm saying. I feel like with his wife, maybe she was the dom and he wanted to have that dom experience, so he took it out over these children, pretty much over these kids.
Yeah. With that about the wife, I definitely don't know. It's never mentioned. But at the same time, I also don't think so. But
I don't know. Like you said, I don't know. I didn't research this case, but from what I can hear about, you know, how he acted around these children, might take.
Deborah Davis and Rhodes met in the early 80s at a Houston bar called Chip Kickers. Rhodes was dressed that night as an airline pilot, and it was months before Davis found out he wasn't one. The remarkable thing is that when she didn't dump him. But Rhodes was cunning and highly charismatic. When the FBI extradited him to Illinois, he was able to get a phone number off a waitress while shackled hand and foot and wearing an orange prison jumpsuit.
What? That is crazy.
This obviously doesn't recommend the waitress's judgment, but at least some of the credit has to go to Rhodes.
That's crazy.
I finally got to Davis through Agent Young. He sent me a text just as I was leaving Texas saying that Debbie was ready to talk. I called as soon as I landed. Today, Davis lives in College Station, Texas, and her kids, the product of a previous marriage, are grown. She occasionally speaks on domestic violence at conferences and in classrooms at AM.
And who's this woman?
This is the woman that he was last married to.
Oh, so maybe
she was the one that was with him at that party. So.
Oh, so he would abuse her too. Because remember she said she would talk about domestic violence?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but they also didn't explain if he abused her or not, but they just said that she speaks on domestic violence at conferences. So.
Oh yeah, I take it back then. My bad.
She's tried to put the years with Rhodes behind her, but still gets letters from him sporadically. Sometimes they're threatening, sometimes cordialing.
Wow.
But always manipulative.
Shoot, poor woman. That's crazy.
According to her, in the summer of 1985, Rhodes was driving for a trucking company based in Georgia that has an office right off I-95. I ran my story past her. When I got to the part about the sudden switch in behavior, she got excited. That's him. That's exactly like him, she said. She also said Rhodes often left his gun at home in the beginning and would have used a knife. There were other points where she saw similarities and would say, that sounds like Bob.
Wow.
But these were less emphatic, and it was hard to tell what she really thought. Like Young and Lee, she had never heard of the Laughing Death Society, and since it had featured so strongly in my experience, I thought it's salient, which I looked up and it just means important.
Thanks for using such a complicated word for us peasants. No kidding.
You know what? But you know what? It'd be like that when you read. Uh-huh. Cause like even when I be reading the romance novels, I'm like, what does that word mean? I look it up. I'm like, oh wow, they could have used the plain word and it would have made the same. It would have had the same feeling. When you're a writer, you're like, I got this big vocabulary. I'm about to use these. Suckers.
You know what? Do what you gotta do. But damn.
Don't you think that facts start to rule him out? Oh no, not at all, she said. Bob was fascinated by secret societies. Davis mentioned the case of Colleen Stan, a 21-year-old hitchhiker who had been kidnapped in 1977 by a couple who tortured her and kept her as a sex slave for 7 years while she slept in a box under their bed.
I remember that one.
You need to look this up because I've heard about it too.
I remember that one. Yeah.
You should look that up and we should have an episode on it. 7 years sleeping in a box under the
Man, I'd be so mad. My back would probably be killing me after 7 years.
Man, you'd have to go to the chiropractor for the longest to just straighten you back up.
For real. Goddamn.
Eventually, she was left unbound. They kept her from running away by convincing her that a society called The Company would find her and bring her back. Bob was obsessed with how they used an imaginary secret society to keep her from running away. So it could be, like the one officer said, that he didn't think she would run.
Definitely.
Because he'd already mentioned
Laughing
that.
Society.
Yeah.
I'm part of that crew. They got my back.
And she was like, I'm out of here. It made sense. As a true sexual sadist, Rhodes would have been interested in a level of submission requiring no chains. He told Shayna Holtz to sit there and be a good girl. Regina Walters had been seen in Chicago standing freely outside his truck in a public place.
Wow.
Do you remember what he was wearing?
She was like, joke's on you. I'm not a good girl. Whoop.
Do you remember what he was wearing? Davis asked quietly. She was the only person who asked me this, and of course I did. Or rather, I remember what he was not wearing. He was not wearing jeans. He was not wearing a t-shirt. He was not wearing flannel. His clothes were gray or blue. But that may have been the light. Deborah told me that Bob always wore matching Dickies, usually dark blue. He liked people to think he was in uniform, she said. The airline pilot's outfit came to mind. Do you remember what his cab looked like? Meticulously clean. That sure sounds like Bob. When I first saw his apartment, I thought I'd walked into a showroom of a furniture store.
Wow.
Even in jail, his shirt and pants were always ironed and pressed.
Jeez. Do you think it has anything to do with his military father?
Well, then he also had joined the Marines.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Before he was dishonorably discharged.
Oh,
so.
that's true.
Could be that. But then isn't there also like a level of like being clean? Most serial killers do that. Like they clean up their sites because of the evidence, so they're always very like
detail oriented.
I have to clean this up. Yeah, there's an organization.
But I also do think it's part of that stuck uppiness that they have. It's like, oh look, I'm always clean, pristine, blah blah blah. I'm like a show pony out here in this world, you know.
From talking to the Martinsburg police that the truck stop had been under the jurisdiction of a Berkeley County sheriff. I called the office. A chipper-voiced recording told me to press 1 for Taz, press 2 for guns. All other callers stay on the line. I finally spoke to a woman and asked if they had a homicide record for a girl who may have been found in Martinsburg truck stop during the summer of 1985. We don't have any records, she told me. I thought she meant digitized. Mm-hmm. I can come down, I said. We don't have any records.
Wow.
So now she's trying to track down like the specific stop, truck stop that she went to. But in the 1990s, the Berkeley County Sheriff's Department's computer crashed and burned.
Oh,
the paper records had been destroyed for file space, and so nothing from the 1980s remained. Ugh. I asked to speak to any senior officer who might have been there at the time. She told me there was only one, and he had gone fishing. I spent a week on the road in Appalachia, visiting truck stops, interviewing older truckers and waitresses. At first, I would ask about the girl in the dumpster, but no one had heard of her. So I asked if there had ever been any woman found in truck stops. Wherever I went, I was told nothing like that ever happened.
No way.
Which was remarkable given the numbers of bodies the FBI had tracked over the past 30 years.
Yeah, what was it, like 300 or 900?
Yeah, it was a lot. That they passed, that initiative to stop people from being murdered out there. The newspapers were equally silent. It seems our profound fascination with serial killers is matched by an equally profound lack of interest in their victims. One library archivist explained that I was looking for the kind of news nobody wanted to read. The girl, he said, wasn't one of our own. She was a drifter. I never heard the word drifter used in earnest. It touched a nerve I didn't know I had. I had been a drifter. If what he said was true, the trail I was on had disappeared into a field. Out of desperation, I made one last attempt and swung by a smaller truck stop in Hancock, Maryland. I spoke to a woman who had worked there a long time and told her about the dead hitchhiker while she fingered the gold cross on her neck and listened. Has she ever heard about it, I asked. She shook her head, then her eyes clouded some. Wait a minute. There was that one girl. She was a prostitute. They found her near a dumpster behind a restaurant at Gateway Travel Plaza in Breezewood. She had a stocking down her throat, I think. That was way back in the early 70s, though. It wasn't the early 70s. It was 1987, and the woman killed was 19-year-old LaMonica Cole. I found her in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette later that night. She had been strangled at Breezewood. Another prostitute had been grabbed there as well in 2006, but was found farther down the road with her throat slit.
Damn.
Neither of these women were the one I was looking for, but a sentence in the article caught my attention. It said there had been a string of prostitute murders and truck stops in the area beginning June of 1985, which was right on the edge of my time frame. The next morning, I drove to the Gateway Travel Plaza in Breezewood, Pennsylvania. I thought that maybe in a truck stop where known murders had occurred, people would be more forthcoming. Maybe they would remember something the others hadn't. I parked in front of the Family Travel Plaza, then walked back past a sign that read trucks only. The store for professional drivers was clean and quiet. I asked around until I found someone who had been there in 1985. It was a woman, probably in her mid-50s. She came over and gave me an open smile. I asked her the same questions I was asking everybody, did you ever hear about a hitchhiker in a dumpster? No, she said. Did you ever hear of anything like that at all in other times? Any other bodies of women found along the stretch of I-70? I was in the one place where I knew for certain women had been found, one less than 100 yards away from where she was standing. No, she said, I never heard of anything like that anywhere. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like she's saying, there's literally, all of these reportings. Like she literally finds 2 girls' names.
Yeah, in that spot in
and
that
they're like,
year.
no, that doesn't happen around here. Like she found one in 2006.
Oh, that's real recent.
And they're like, no, nothing like that happens around here. Like what?
That kind of shit pisses me off.
It's like everybody's just like
trying to hide it,
blind to it. They're like, oh, this isn't happening in our city.
You know what? It kind of remember the fucking Freddy Krueger movies and stuff like that, where like they all know about the stories about him, but the families are like, oh no, that was a long time ago, or some of them are just straight up like it didn't happen and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't know,
but they have a reason to not talk about him, because when you talk about him, he shows back up.
I know, but I feel
in here. It's just, I don't know, negligent to just pretend like people aren't disappearing.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like horror movies have a thing where they kind of reflect, like, real society and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. They do. They take, they're inspired by like events that occurred.
And I feel like
in real life.
No, yeah, definitely. But I feel like it happens a lot. You find out about all these bad things that have happened in your area or things that are going on, and people would just rather not talk about it because it's harder to bring these things up than it is to just ignore them. And it's just one of those things where we can tell people have always been trying to fucking, didn't happen here, folks. Look somewhere else. When in reality, they should have just really been like, this is happening. We need to fucking keep on the lookout and see how the fuck we're gonna stop this shit from happening in our community. I don't know. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but just saying.
They've just decided it ain't happening.
Motherfuckers. And that's why it's gonna keep happening. Because they're gonna know it's okay to do it there. Because ain't nobody gonna talk about it.
Yeah. Listening to her, it occurred to me that this investigation of mine wasn't a detective novel. It was a ghost story. The prisms of Regina Walters, Shayna Holtz, and Lisa Pennell refractured into a set of icons. One in the backseat of a car laughing as she leans on the headrest. One with the shorn red gold hair and an expression of resilience. One slightly crazy, ready to fight. Each casting her own light, each a hologram of girlhood.
I just love how she's saying these things about the victims. Like, for real, these were just regular girls trying to get from point A to point B.
Later, she talks about like her memory of hitchhiking, and then pretty much how she stopped being a hitchhiker. In Massachusetts, she meets like a group of students, and they talk her into staying with them and joining college. And then she joins college and calls her mom. And at this point, she's like 16.
16?
And then her mom.
Fuck!
Yeah, she was on the road. She's left. She said she was like 14.
Yeah, 14.
And so she ended up reconnecting with her mom, and her mom gave her money to pay for school. And then I guess that's pretty much her. Aww. And then she, moved to Europe, hitchhiked around Europe.
Damn.
But then at that point, that her story sounds more normal. Like a lot of people hitchhike around Europe,
But same thing as here in America.
College students.
But, whatever.
I hope people from other countries don't come here and hitchhike.
Please
do that.
Don't
do that.
Don't do that.
Do not. You see what happens to hitchhikers here. Don't do it.
But, it's funny because having the mentality knowing that this is happening, I would never be able to hitchhike anywhere. I would just not,
Yeah, but I mean, over there, I think they're used to people, traveling that way, like backpackers.
Don't hitchhike anywhere.
That's why they have, hostels and stuff where people don't get murdered. And
I don't know. I saw that movie.
It's like a regular thing there, girl. That's okay. I love horror movies, but I hate that genre of horror movie, the torture porn.
Gore
I'm
movie?
This ain't. It's not even gore. It's torture porn, where it's like you're watching eyeballs be pulled out of sockets and stuff. you can miss me with that.
Same.
That's
I
gross.
know. Like, I want to be genuinely be scared. Like, I want to fucking have a ghost drag someone in their sleep. You know what I mean? I don't want to.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to see nobody
Yeah.
fucking screaming because someone's fucking tearing out their intestines. Like, miss me with that shit.
While they're alive.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, because it's like we like, you know, like the Paranormal Activity movies, but it's like past Saw 2, there's no reason to continue to watch them. You know.
I know. Yeah.
But back to
let's do it. Let's do quick deaths. Like fucking Michael Myers. He would just whoosh, throw the machete and just click, get the head, and he's done.
Yeah, or you know, Freddy snatch you into a bed. Like,
there's low key some like torture porn in them.
But that's the difference between gore. That's the difference between gore and torture porn.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we can watch somebody get cut in half, and it's not a big deal. But then when you watching somebody slowly be, you know, cut finger by finger, that's when I'm like, okay, what is this really? What are we watching?
No,
here?
yeah, but it's crazy. I don't know. I guess this is a topic for another time, but yeah.
Talk about some movies.
That I refuse to watch.
When I
that's
got
cool.
home,
that I refuse to watch, but that's cool.
When I got home from West Virginia, a letter from Rhodes was waiting.
Oh.
It said he would see me if I promised never to say that I had seen him or what had passed between us. It was just the kind of promise a sexual predator or child molester would try to extract. He also wanted $500.
Oh my God.
I wrote him back and told him that journalistic standards wouldn't allow me to pay for interviews. I expected that would be the end of it, but I got another letter. Young was right. Rhodes liked to think of himself as an expert, and now Rhodes suggested he be paid as one. But an expert in what, I thought? Killing? At the bottom of the yellow legal paper, scrawled in all caps, he wrote, "It wasn't me." I looked at the letter. He may be right, but certainly not because he's innocent. I imagined for a moment flying to Illinois. I go through the paperwork, get fingerprinted, and led through a channel of airlock doors into a room with him. He's there in his neatly pressed shirt and colossal arrogance. We do the interview, but I don't take notes. It doesn't matter what he says. After all, it's just going to be his word against mine, and who's going to believe me? That's where my fantasy ends in the game of who is credible now.
I am. Shit. Fuck that bitch.
The same week that I got the letter from Rhodes, the senior officer from the Berkeley County Sheriff Department who had been fishing returned. He said that no girls had ever been found in a dumpster at Martinsburg, West Virginia truck stop, and I had no reason not to believe him. One story Deborah Davis told still haunts me. She was on a trip with her husband Bob, and the last she ever took in his truck. They were headed west on I-10 and stopped somewhere in Arizona at a busy truck stop. By the restaurant door was a young woman with a baby, trying to get a ride. Deborah says she looked about 18 or 19 and desperate. Deborah wanted to give her money to do something. Her own sister had been on the street, and she was overwhelmed by a woman at the door and didn't want to just walk away. Mm-hmm. Rhodes saw what Deborah was looking at. He came around behind her and grabbed her shoulders. He turned her slowly toward the girl and pointed. "You see that, Debbie?" he whispered in her ear. "She's one of the invisible people."
What?
And that's the end of the article.
What a fucking bitch. Wow, how dare he say that shit about her?
Yeah.
Shit.
So it's like the author of this article, like, she never found out if
it was him or not.
Person was him or not, but it was definitely someone similar to him. Mm-hmm. Like, it was a average looking white guy wearing a button up, very clean, glasses. Mm-hmm. And he obviously was doing something similar, because I'm like, there's obviously multiple people out there doing this, because there's no way one person is killing, 900 people, you know? But unfortunately...
But you never know.
There's several people out there, because the thing about it is, with his MO, he was keeping women for a couple of weeks before murdering them, so there's no way that he would have been able to, because he also wasn't keeping more than one at a time. So there's no way that it was just him. So she just possibly came in contact with someone who was similar to him, that was probably going to do something similar to her, but luckily for her, she ran.
it's just crazy.
But yeah, when I read this article, I'm just like, wow. Like, and then the fact that she's going on this whole investigation on her own, just trying to figure out, like, did I survive a serial killer?
She definitely did, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm sure she was not the only one that happened to.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's like the fact that this story's out, she's probably come in contact with, because I don't remember, let me see when this article came out, but she's probably come in contact with women who read this article who were in the same boat as her.
Definitely. They're like, I know someone who was like that. And it's crazy knowing that there were a lot of these. A lot of these.
Oh, yeah, this article came out in 2012.
Phew. And I don't know. I don't even know how to process this information. Like, I've always known there have been crazy ass mofos out there and stuff like that, but just to know, like, you know, I'm one of those people who likes to think that there's a lot more good out there in the world, but then when you read shit like this and see shit like this, you remember, like, ugh, it's about 50-50.
Yeah, well, the issue is there is a whole lot of good out there, but there's still a whole lot of bad.
Definitely. And y'all better be safe than sorry, because fuck all these bitches. Like, I can't. It's just like, what do you do when you're that person, you know? Like, all you really can do is run. And it's funny because, you know, just recently we've been having, it's been a while ago, but whatever. Like, we've had that Me Too movement and shit like that. And it's always been that same argument. Who is gonna believe me when my word is against that white dude over there? I don't know.
And even the few cases that were men that stepped forward during that time,
it
was still like, no one was gonna believe me. Like,
yeah, like,
this person is powerful.
Yeah, it's all like, people are fucking
But
crazy.
Unfortunately, especially here, you don't even have to be a powerful dude. You just need to be a white guy, and you can get away with a lot of stuff.
Because for damn sure, if you're Hispanic, all you have to say is that Mexican dude or that Hispanic dude. They're like, oh, we gonna go get that motherfucker. He ain't even from here. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, I can't. It's just like, it's funny. Just, I guess it's not funny, but it's funny to me. It's that they have so much.
It's funny in the saddest way possible.
Yeah.
It's funny in the saddest way
that
possible.
They get all these fucking, like, you know, it's all right. He'll be fine. It just reminds me of, fuck, who is that college student who fucking was raping these girls, and they pretty much just said, well, he has a bright future ahead of him. Just, you know, just let that shit slide.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember reading an article about that. I don't remember what his name was either.
And that's some bullshit. And you see, like, the stuff that's going on right now. Like, it's funny. I don't know. I don't want to even get into politics or anything like that, but...
Yeah, let's not.
Yeah, it's just like...
It's a horrible rabbit hole.
It's a horrible, horrible rabbit hole. And if everyone would just be treated the same, maybe it wouldn't be...
We don't. Maybe when we, you know, have our cult and we get, you know, powerful enough members and we can start a regime and take over, we can have
don't say
force
that
people to treat
our FBI guy's gonna get us.
Treat everyone better.
Now we're fucking on the fucking red list or black list or something.
We don't even have a manifesto yet, so God. We don't belong on any list.
We're still drafting our manifesto, you know.
We haven't even drafted yet. We gotta start throwing out these ideas.
But damn.
We'll force everyone to be nicer to each other.
I know. I don't either. I'm like, come on, y'all. Let's just be nice to each other, be kind to each other. Come on, y'all. Really? Like, let's do it this way. You punch me in the face, I punch you in the face, yeah?
Golden rule. I'm telling you. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Like,
people are going to get tired of us saying that fucking golden rule, but it's so
I
true.
say it all the time. And I remember one time one of my coworkers was like trying to like discredit it and was like, oh, well, what if you want to be treated this way? But it's like, okay, but you make your expectations known. Like, the golden rule still applies to everything, but just because you're like in this what if category, like, I'm not going to argue with you. I have my belief system on it and it is what it is. He's
like, oh, well, you want to be treated all nice and special? Well, then that means I got to be treated all nice and special too, right?
Yeah, but that means that you have to, you know, we both have to treat all nice and special.
Exactly. And it's just like,
end of the day, so...
what's the problem then?
Exactly.
Like, what is the problem?
I don't do that, when people, which no offense, but it's usually guys, do that devil's advocate nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
The second you start doing that, I'm like, and I'm done talking.
Definitely. It's a like, dude.
Because you just want to argue. What I hear out of that is you just want to argue.
I know.
You're like, oh, well, I'm gonna leave it this way, blah, 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 blah. Oh, no.
Yep.
We're not doing that. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not next week.
I know.
So
it's like, unless you're okay with that shit happening back to you, then don't fucking say shit. But if you're okay with being treated that way, then you keep fucking preaching that shit. Go for it. Like, fine. But when I treat you that way, don't fucking be like, oh man, they treated me so mean. Why doesn't nobody like me? Like, bitch. Bitch.
All right, so our oracle card for the week is number 45. Number 45, such a curious dream. Grounding, returning to reality, coming home.
Hey, didn't we have this one before?
Yeah, I think at this point, we've had almost all of them. It's time for us to finally find a new deck.
I know.
A time when work must be done. Eat well and prepare good meals. Make magic in your everyday activities and ordinary moments. A return from an extraordinary experience, adventure, travel, or holiday. When the time is right, you will encounter Wonderland once again.
Oh, but wait.
That's uplifting. That's very positive.
Yeah. You know, we have to get back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. But you can say bye to the people. It's your episode.
Well, you usually do it.
I know.
Right,
well, you want me to do it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll see you guys again next Friday. This is Hyra.
And Kim.
And don't you guys ever forget, you're the bee's knees.
Item 9.
We'll see you guys next Friday. Toodles.
Bye.